Welcome to the Grace Story Podcast, where inspiring stories are brought to life. This podcast is made possible by Grace College and Seminary, located on the shores of Winona Lake in the great state of Indiana. I'm your host, Dr. Drew Flamm. This is the Grace Story Podcast. Today I have with me Jessie Zvers, who is a third-year student here at Grace College and is the student body president, as well as on the cross-country team. And I'm sure she'll tell us many other wonderful things about herself. I have to ask, Jessie, welcome to the Grace Story Podcast. And I have to ask, today is a beautiful, rainy, cold day out. Do you still practice cross-country even on days like today?
Yes, we will. We'll be out at the track today, so technically I guess we're in track season right now. And yes, we were outside when it was below 20 degrees, so we'll be outside today.
Rain or shine, you guys are hardcore.
Yes. Hardcore.
So give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you're from, major, all that good kind of stuff.
Okay. So I am from Peru, Indiana. It's a smallish, I guess, town south of Warsaw by like an hour. And I'm a third out of 4 years at Grace, so I'm very excited to have one more year left and I don't have to leave. Let's see. I'm a secondary social studies education major, which I love. I love U.S. history, and so that's been a ton of fun to be able to work with kids and teach that. Yeah, cross country and track is my other main thing that I do on campus, so I love that as well.
You keep busy.
Yes, very busy session right now.
So you said before we started that you actually prefer junior high students to high school students, and that's where you hope to end up. Mm-hmm. You're a brave soul. Tell us why junior high.
So I love junior high and just that middle school age because I think that students still want to be there. They still enjoy the idea of school and learning. They still can get really excited about it. And like you kind of said before, they still kind of can look up to their teacher, which is something that I think is very interesting. And it's just a good age. And yeah, a lot of people would run away from that. But I think that that's just a pivotal also time in like a child's development as well.
Tell us a little bit about your growing up years and then what brought you to Grace College.
Mm-hmm. So first off, I'll answer the question backwards. So both of my parents went to Grace and my brother went to Grace. He's here now, actually. He's a fourth year, but he's going to fifth. And then my cousin just graduated in December. So it's just kind of like
my aunt and uncle. So we should name a building after your family.
Pretty much.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So and then my aunt and uncle also came. So I just only applied to Grace. I just knew that I wanted to come here. And came and visited when my brother was here his freshman year. So I just really saw like how much he loved it and the relationships that he built. And I knew that that was something that I really wanted to have in a college experience. And I also could continue athletics. So that was another huge part. And running competitively wasn't something that I wanted to give up yet. So being able to continue that was huge. I've also grown up Grace Brethren my whole life and gone to the same church in Peru, and they also have some ties to Grace College. So that, I guess, kind of pushed me here a little bit, I guess, just having some of the same views. But yeah, so lived in Peru. I was born in Wisconsin, so we're huge Wisconsin sports fans.
I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan. So
well, there you go.
Yeah, that's Hawkeyes and Badgers. We don't get along,
no, that's
typically
right.
speaking.
So yeah, my dad grew up there, so that's why we love all of that. And so very competitive family just because we all love sports. And my dad teaches upper elementary. So I guess that, and my aunt's a teacher, so I've just had teachers in my life constantly. And then my mom's a nurse, and she's always been the best caretaker, but I knew from her experience that I didn't want to do anything in the medical field just growing up. So that helped me get rid of that option right away. But have had a lot of injuries in my life just with being very active and being involved in a lot of sports. So I did originally kind of want to maybe do some like pre-physical therapy, but just the science and stuff I had no desire to do. But so a fun fact about Peru is that we have the largest amateur circus in the world. So I did that for 7-ish years.
You were in the circus?
Yeah, so I did that for a while.
What did you do in the circus?
So I would say, there's always like your main like circus things that you think of, I guess, would be like a trapeze or like we have a high wire. And I did some more trapeze sort of things, I guess I would say. That's just the best way I know how to explain it. But yeah, and like we would do one act that I did for a couple years was called Spanish Web, and it's just a rope that like hangs from the ceiling, and there's a loop at the top, and you put your hand in and you just kind of do tricks. But we just have practices where we just climb up and down for like an hour, and but it takes up a lot of your summer. So once I kind of got into high school, I had to choose between that and sports, so I chose sports, and but it was definitely a cool experience. Not a lot of people get to say that. So.
Now aren't there a couple of rather large circus acts that started out of Peru?
Yeah, so the Peru, Indiana is where the Circus City, I guess, like Hall of Fame is. So like when you think of like those big like circuses that I guess I'm confused.
Barnum and Bailey and all those kind of things.
Has ties to Peru as well, so that's really cool. And it started with the big like red and white tent, and that's where the Hall of Fame is. And it's just and I have a friend that I actually ran with in high school, and once she graduated, she did a year at college in Illinois, and then after that, she literally like ran away with a professional circus because she had the experience from Peru, and she's like a trapeze artist now, and.
Wow, that's a cool experience to be able to look back on in life.
Is, for sure.
But it probably where some of those injuries also came in with sports and circus and all those kind of things.
Yep.
Wow. Have you had major injuries while here at Grace as well?
Yes. So I've had just with running, I've had some like undiagnosed leg pain that's been going on. I had surgery on both my legs in my senior year of high school, so that's just continued a little bit, but I'm healthy right now, so just trying to stay that way. But in the fall, we had homecoming, and Student Senate is in charge of the dance party at the end of the year, and so my friends and I were just, it was in the MOCC, and we were just hanging out and hitting, the balloons were still on the ceiling from the like decorations from the after party or whatever, and they had kind of fallen to the ground though, so one of my friends picked up a balloon and we all started just hitting it, trying to play like keep away in the air. And so I went back to hit the balloon and like bring it back towards us, and right as I did that, a girl walked right behind me and I just kind of decked her in the jaw on accident, and I came back down and my friend's like, you just hit her in the face, and obviously I felt very, very bad. Ran to check on her in the bathroom, and then she was fine. Her lip was bloody a little bit. And then I got back out, and I was like, my hand hurt so much. And I was like, what happened? And it started swelling really badly. And I was like, I just went to sit down because I just wasn't feeling well. And so as a student body president, that was like our event for homecoming. So, but Kirsten Criswell, my boss, came and was like, hey, you can leave because you're just like, I was in a ton of pain. And yeah, we didn't know if I should go to the emergency room or what. But my mom, being the nurse that she is, I FaceTimed her, and she was like, just wait till the morning. You don't need to go to the ER tonight. You can just go to Ready Med if it still hurts. So one of my roommates had like an ACE wrap, so we just wrapped it, and I took ibuprofen and iced it. And I woke up, and it was in terrible pain still. So we went to Ready Med, and I had an x-ray, and it was broken. And I had surgery the next Wednesday and have this nice scar. But so that's definitely an injury. So
boxing is not in your future.
No,
you're going to stick with the circus and cross country and stay away from boxing, it sounds like.
Yep. So that's a prominent injury that I'll never forget.
Tell me a little bit about the cross country team and just that dynamic and what it's meant for you to be a part of that team. Yeah, so I love the cross team and the distance team, I guess, on track. And this year has been a formative year because we got a new grad assistant. His name is Jacob Pointer, and he ran D1 at Wake Forest and Lipscomb University. And so we just kind of got told at the end of cross-country season that our head coach would be stepping down for next year. And he's been a great coach and has definitely shaped us and been one of our biggest cheerleaders, of course. And he's just going to take on some bigger athletic administration roles, which he's very excited about, and so we're really happy for him. So we've had this new grad assistant kind of take over some stuff, especially with track. And he has just done a really great job of forming our team and our team culture. And we just grown a lot as a team from cross because we do have a very small team, which is not what you want. We'd like to have some bigger numbers, but it can be hard to recruit. So just learning to take pride and ownership in what we do, and then as we do that, that will change the outlook on our team from campus or from the conference or whatever. So and just really focusing on some goals and focusing on the really little things to try and accomplish the bigger things. I guess that's been a huge theme this year. And we have been using the motto of burn the ships with the idea of
this is where we've been, and we're burning it, we're leaving it there, and we're only looking forward. So yeah, we're very,
it's kind of
very,
a biblical thing,
yes.
right? Like what is behind and
Right.
push forward to what is ahead.
Yes.
And
So yeah, that's been our plan for this year, and looking forward to next year. We have some awesome recruits coming in, and excited for the girls team to expand, and the guys team has a chance to do really well in the conference next year. So as long as we all keep putting in that work, I think it will go really well. So yeah.
I'm always amazed by those who choose to do cross country. I'm a runner, a slow one. So my goal is always to finish.
Right.
It's not really about beating anyone. But you guys do this day in and day out and really put yourselves through the grind. Yes. Why, and what has that taught you?
So yeah, I started running when I was like upper L-Ed, and then, my sixth grade was still connected to elementary. So, but a lot of schools it's in the middle school. So we got to run with the junior high kids. So I started running then, and then just continued into high school. And when you get from junior high to high school, the mileage changes from like a 2-mile race to a 5K. So that was really scary going from like that big jump and thinking like, no way can I race this. But now like I've raced a 10K, so it's just like I like the 5K. It's just short and sweet now. But yeah, the why is like, I would say runners are just kind of a different breed of people, I would say, and just a little crazy. But like, yeah, we just this week, like we did a tempo like workout on the track. So that's like slower than race pace, but you're not like it's very difficult. So, yeah, and just day in and day out, you're really, yeah, like you said, you're grinding your body away. And we were talking the other day, like the point of sports is just to really break your body down, But like being able to put yourself through all of that work and then come out on the other side and like accomplish a goal that you've been working so hard for, and just see that work pay off is just like a feeling that you just can't get anywhere else. And being able to do it with a team is just unbelievable. Yeah, I would say like even thinking back to high school, I had like a time where I kind of like my mentality as a runner kind of switched, and I just started taking it more seriously. I started running really well and just being more competitive, and I was like, this is a sport where the watch doesn't lie and you get in what you put out. So yeah, I would say it's just that like hard work and putting your body through that much is to get something out of it is just unlike anything.
And what has that taught you that you've been able to apply to your academic life or to your spiritual life? Like, has there been lessons learned for you in cross country that you feel like you've been able to apply elsewhere? Yeah,
of course. We just learning like how to exemplify like the verse in Colossians 3 that talks about like working heartily for the Lord and not for man. Just is so hit on so hard in sports, especially at a Christian school, which is awesome. And then learning how to like also transfer that to academics, and transfer that to relationships or, whatever it is that you're working on, or with my job, like, just recognizing that like we can do that in every area, and we are to do that in every area of our lives. And also it's just running has just taught me to be like honest with like those around me, because it's very easy as a runner to be very stubborn, and when you're hurting you don't want to stop. And I would always, like, distance runners are some of the most toughest people that I know, and so it's just like all athletes are, no sport is harder than any other sport, but like it's just very easy to not want to stop. And but it's always better to listen to your body and to tell your coach or tell a teammate that you're hurting. So running has also taught me, I think, to try to like not let everything bottle up inside of you, and like, you can talk to other people about stuff, and that always helps a ton. So and it's just taught me like a worth ethic, and just being very determined and very disciplined, and showing how important the little things are in a sport also shows me just how little things are very important in my day-to-day life of just like talking with my friends or academics, and just making sure you get everything done. I would say those are some huge life
Okay,
lessons.
so I'm about to do a half marathon in 3 weeks, and we may have some other runners listening. Give us 2 or 3 points. Give me some advice here. So how do I make the most of my race here in a couple weeks?
Are you running the mini in Indy?
I'm running a mini, not in Indy,
Not in Indy, okay.
where I grew up in Toledo with some high school buddies,
Cool.
And so I want to beat them. So what's my help me out here, Jesse?
So let's see. My roommate actually, she just ran a half marathon. She in the NAIA, which is the division of school that we are. You can run a marathon for track. It's not on the track, but it's just the season that it's in. So, but you have to qualify with a half marathon time. So she, just with student teaching, realized that, hey, maybe I might not be able to do that, but, like, I still want to run this half. That was kind of her goal. But, like, she did insanely well, and she was really close to the qualifying time. And so, but I would say, like, something that she learned, and just from me watching her in that experience, is, like, those, like, you run a lot of longer miles, and it can get very, like, very tedious, and you can get ready to run. You're like, man, I do not want to do this. But I would say
that might have happened to me this morning at 6 a.m. and I might have stayed in bed. So
I would just say, like, yeah, the hardest part is getting out the door and, like, just reminding yourself that, like, you have this end goal in mind to, like, that's what you want to accomplish. So, like, thinking towards that and telling yourself, like, hey, if I don't do this right now, then, like, that could hurt me come, like, race time, I guess. That's stuff that I tell myself to, like, motivate me to, I guess, do better. But I would say when it comes to be, like, race day, and the night before, obviously get, like, tons of rest. And I would even say that we've always been told, like, if you're racing on a Saturday, Thursday night sleep is the most important.
Oh, okay, good.
Because, like, oftentimes Friday nights, especially for racers, like, you're just, like, you can't sleep.
You're just amped up
Yeah, and so, like, we've just been told, like, you know, that one night of sleep, like, obviously you want to get some sleep, but, like, that one night is not the most important night. But, like, yeah, eat well, take care of your body, and recover well. Refuel well is very important. A lot of people, you know, think, oh, I get done racing and I don't need to eat for a couple hours or whatever, or I can just kind of eat whatever I want now. But I would say refueling your body.
They always have pizza at the end, so I should hold off on the pizza and go for the bananas.
Yeah,
okay,
get, like,
all right.
some water, or get chocolate milk. That's what you want.
Chocolate milk, okay,
yes,
good.
Yes,
that's like a good recovery drink.
Yes, it is. We always, I got a gallon in my fridge in
wow.
my apartment. So yeah.
Well, you've also been highly involved with Student Senate, student government here on campus, and were elected student body president for this year. Tell me, last year you were thinking about running and taking on this significant leadership position on campus. What made you decide to go for it? What was that election process like for you?
Right. So, yeah, this question I get a lot, which I have a terrible answer to, just because, like, we were sitting in Alpha one day, and it was in the lowdown, and I was senior class president in high school.
Which lowdown is what we...
Yes.
This kind of like the student
information,
yes.
just where you can click on links to sign up for stuff, whatever. So it was in the lowdown that elections for student body president would be happening soon. And my roommate was like, oh, didn't you do this in high school? And I was like, yeah, I guess. But, like, it was just such on another level here. Because, like, in high school, I'm just, like, designing t-shirts for field day or whatever. So, like, and I did do some public speaking a little bit back then, but it just on another level here. And I was like, well, maybe, like, it would be, I kind of need a job. And, like, I didn't even know that it paid at first, which is not why I did it. But, like, I just was like, you know, I could talk to the current student body president at that time. Her name was Kirsten Mead, and she did a phenomenal job. And so I just sat down with her and had lunch with her one day and talked about if I could even do it with being an athlete, because that's just typically not how it works. But student, like, involvement has been very helpful in just balancing the two. But yeah, so she said, like, kind of laid out what the job looked like, and I was like, yeah, well, I'll run. And I had to be interviewed and approved, and so that all went well. And then the election was very rare. So we had 4 people run. Which, like, this year we only had 1, which is more what it looks like, which was just odd, but, like, it was more like the 4 of us did, like, campaigning, we put posters around, and I had, like, a pizza party to, like, try and, like, just meet people, so I, like, hung up posters for that. And
pizza, that's a good election strategy right there,
that's
yes.
Right. And so, which I was like, you know, I guess it would be good to, like, meet people this way and just get my name out there, because I think, you know, on a college campus, if kids are voting and they don't know much about it, and it's like, oh, if I've heard this person, you know.
Right.
So I thought that might be a good idea. So we had, like, a primary, so then I moved on to the next week with another candidate, and then they voted again. We found out at the end of the week, and I did not think I was going to win it all, and I just remember, like, I didn't really have a why. I was just like, I know that I love Grace, and would love to try and be in a position to change some things or just like give feedback on what students really think. And so I just remember praying, like, Lord, if this is something you want me to have, then you have a reason, and if not, that's totally fine with me. But so it's been a very busy year with adding that, but it's also been a huge growing experience. I think with I've learned how to even lead better and just like thinking about being the head of a classroom one day, and I've just learned things from this that will help me in every area of my life. So
what were has what you perceived this job to be and what it has become, how's that been similar or different than what your expectations were?
Yeah, so it's been different, but it hasn't been like a bad different. I was unaware a little bit of like the amount of events that Senate would kind of have to run, which I've learned that just kind of is not my thing. And I'm like, it stresses me out a lot, and like getting to all the details down, and it's a lot to plan an event. But when you do that, when you have a staff to like be able to help you, and the student senators that I have now, like the team that I have, I've been so thankful for, because they're just awesome, and you give them a task, and their job is pretty volunteer based. So I just ask them, and they're all ready and willing to help, and so that's been really awesome. And I've also learned in the event area of like, oh, well, this is not that bad. This is not as bad as I thought it was. I just, you gotta take a chill pill and just let it work out. And we've been very blessed to have some really good events this year, and that they have gone really well. And we'll help out with the joust a little bit, which is the most crazy time on campus at the end of the year.
It's coming up in a few weeks, right? So kind of like an all-week event,
competition event,
extravaganza. Yeah.
So, and then that's kind of our last thing, and then I'll pretty much be done, and I'll pass it on to the next student body president. Her name is Casey Fox. She's a sophomore right now, and next year she'll be a 3 out of 3 year next year. So next year will be her last year, and she's really excited, and she's definitely like very suited for the job. So yeah.
So when you put yourself on a pedestal like that, you open yourself up both to pats on the back, but also criticism. And that's just what leadership is. What have been some of those leadership lessons for you?
So a huge thing on campus this year has been the parking lot and how that shifted this year. And like, for those who don't know, they kind of took out half of a parking lot and made it a green space, which a lot of people like, and a lot of people have had their opinions on, which is to be expected. You can't make everyone happy. And so I would say there's been one area that we've been there's one road that they made into a one-way, and Student Senate has been trying to reverse that back to being 2 ways, just because that's what we hear from a lot of students, which the administration has their reasoning behind, and we've just respected that as the year has gone on and realized like this is not something that's going to be changed right now, which is fine. But I would say that's something that I'm like working through, is like just because we really, really want to accomplish something, there might be a really good reason why it might not be able to happen. And then not every student knows that, so then like it can be easy to get backlash, and so yeah, this experience has been great, because I've been able to sit down with like Dr. Kadep, I've been able to sit down with the director of campus safety and just like hear their perspectives on certain things. If every student could sit down with them, like there would be no complaining on campus, because the reasoning behind a lot of things is smart and definitely sound. So like, or the director of Res Life, sitting down and talking to her. Yeah, there are things that we want to change, and Grace is not perfect, but there are definitely, behind some rules, there are definitely things that, like, that's a smart reason why certain things are the way they are. Open dorms is another thing. We just added a new open dorms hour for this school year. Student Senate did that last year. And we've been kind of looking about how we could add one more hour onto Friday night, but also wanting to, like, that's just something you hear again from students. But also remembering, like, we just added this last year, so we don't want to push too much, but also just starting to like get data on that and stuff is just a solid step. We got a new toaster in Alpha this year, which is like something that's so small, but something that was so needed. And I just remember being like, I didn't even care if people knew that Student Senate did that, but like we did, and I was like, you just feel very accomplished, and you're like, wow, like that's just awesome that someone listened and we got it done. So yeah, I would say I don't know if that really answers your question, but
being a voice both to students from administration, but also being a voice from students to administration. So you're kind of the in-between.
Right, which I felt a little bit
between students and administration, and you feel that pull both ways.
There's some pressure there for sure.
And that's a good thing, and I think just a wonderful leadership opportunity, and you'll always feel that dynamic wherever you are,
right?
And wherever God takes you. So we've kind of talked about your cross-country life, your athletic life, your student leadership life. Let's talk a little bit about your education, which is what you came here for.
That's why I'm at Grace.
So tell me a little bit about, maybe a professor or a class that's really been impactful for you.
So I love secondary education because it's like the best of both worlds because I get to dive in deeper into my love for social studies and history, but I also get to learn about like how to be the best teacher that I can be, which Grace does a phenomenal job at. Like the education program is not a joke here. So, and that's amazing, and that pulls a ton of students. Like if you were to ask a bunch of ed students, they're like, "Hey, why did you pick Grace?" And they're like, "Well, the ed program is so solid here," and it is. And I would say I'll do like both sides then, I guess. So right now I'm in a class. It's called Colonial America and the Revolution, and Dr. Burkholder teaches it. And he's done a great job. And the reading has been so interesting. When you're in a history class, it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. So that can be a ton, but like it's very like you go so much deeper than like a high school class, and you start to learn stuff that you just like that people just don't really know because it's just not taught. And some of that it's like really hard to like wrestle with history and like because there were moments like obviously in any nation where like there have been failures and like but you can learn from that, and then it's kind of like, oh man, like I love this part of history but this happened, and you're like, man, that kind of stinks, but you kind of just have to you can just grow in that, and I think that's really cool. We've also been, and I love the American Revolution, so like this class has been awesome. And we get to our final project is like transcribing these 18th century like diary entries and letters, and like my partner and I, we have one that's like written to Benjamin Franklin. So it's just like, as a history nerd, that's just like so cool to me. And so that's been really cool, and we like it's called like it's on a certain website, but like once we transcribe these things as a class, they'll be published and put on the website, which I think is just kind of cool. But yeah, and like Dr. Norris is the Dean of Arts and Sciences. He has taught a lot of my classes, and he does a phenomenal job as well, and he's my advisor. So yeah, he's just nice to be able to like have someone to always talk to about, like he always knows the best classes to take, and that's been helpful. And then in like the ed department, there's been a new prof this year. Her name is Lorenda Klein. And so I've only taken one of her classes, and it's called Responsive and Differentiated Instruction. And that is just a class where you learn how to teach, you learn how to differentiate your teaching pretty much, which you get to the end of the class and you're like, oh my, like it's just a lot to think about, but like you get solid like skills of what to take into your classroom. And yeah, every ed prof is just like very, very caring. And I remember before I spoke in chapel this year, she emailed me and was like, I saw you're speaking in chapel. I'll definitely be praying for you. And like then she came, and so just having professors like Dr. Norris too and Dr. Burkholder, they all like emailed me and talked to me after that specific like situation, and they're just definitely there for you, and that's a perk about a small school as well. It's just
so certainly you're getting the head knowledge, but the relationship aspect, the fact that your professors know you and care for you, means more than anything.
Yes.
So you spoke in chapel, which is that's a big deal at Grace College. Tell me what you spoke about and how'd that go for you?
So, so my boss reached out to me over Christmas break and was like, hey, this was something that the student body president and I last year were like, we would love to implement this yearly. Is this something that you'd want to do? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I just needed to pray about what I was going to talk about. And so I didn't even talk till the second session. So I didn't talk till after spring break. And I probably didn't finish what I was going to talk about until 2 nights or a night before that I spoke. But I had one of my friends who's a great writer kind of help me go through and like fix my grammar and fix like my citations and just like help me. And a lot of my friends were just very supportive in that. And it was very nerve-wracking, but yeah, I was thankful to have like such a great support system as well. And like you said, it is a big deal to kind of get up on the stage in chapel. It's very nerve-wracking because I never spoke for that long, and But it was a growing experience for sure. And just being able to share, I talked a little bit about just my personal life and how God has used trials in my life to help me like achieve, or I haven't achieved, but like grow in counting it all joy, and just taking that from James 1. And just also talking about like how through like the power of the resurrection, like we can count it all joy and we can look at terrible things that happen. But yeah.
Amen.
So that's what I talked about a little bit.
That's great. All right. Well, you have been wonderful. Thank you for just being willing to share some of your story. I have to ask you one last question. So you're a president and you're a history person. So do you have a favorite president? If so, who and why?
Well, my dad as well loves history, and he loves Ronald Reagan. So I just grew up like loving Ronald Reagan. And I think that just like his like he came from like being beloved by like America and being this actor, and then like transitioned his life. And I just think that's always pretty cool. And yeah.
Well, maybe someday we'll be talking about, President of the United States, Jesse. We'll see. Huh?
That would be nuts.
Thanks for being on the Grace Story podcast. As always, you can like us and find us on the website, grace.edu/podcast, or iTunes or Google Play. We'd love for you to download and like this so more people can hear about it. We can add and share more stories like Jesse's, and go out and live your best Grace story today.
Thank you for having me.